It's good to see you guys. Reviewing the tape. Um, I think defensively is a good example. We went from 1 week playing our best game to a week later playing our worst. And I think offensively, you look at it and you see opportunities, possibilities, and whether it's lack of effort, lack of execution, things that we could control. So unfortunate, a lot to learn from, a lot to grow from for sure. And so today's going to be really diving into all of that, and trying to get lessons that hit home, and so we don't have to revisit those lessons. Looking forward to this next week. The opportunity to play in this, I think credit goes to a bunch of folks. I think of our seniors. I think of the overall team buy-in. I think of the staff and their cohesion and their belief. I go back to those December, January meetings where things were maybe unclear to see kind of how this was all going to play out. And so the belief and the connection that was forged then, I think, is way special. And so great opponent, so much respect for Coach Gundy and that team. Very talented. They play with an edge. They play as a team. I think you could see the connection with them. You could see the culture there. And so on both sides of it, I think athletically and team-wise, they're elite. And so what a great challenge for us. Take any questions you guys got.
John Warner, Waco Trib. Obviously, it's been a long time since you've played them. And what areas you feel like you guys will have to get better than the first time you played them? What you will have to attack better?
The first thing that pops out was, that was our first really road environment. So, pressure creates abnormal behavior. I think we were in spots where, the jersey number said it was so-and-so, but we weren't acting like that person. And I think coaching-wise, same thing. And so there was a lot of unforced errors in that game, things that unfortunately we could control, that we didn't do a very good job with. And so I think, credit to Oklahoma State. We played Baylor and we played them that night. And so I think there's that. I think the ability to play through adversity and to control the stuff you can't control, I think we've grown in that space. I don't think we're there yet by any means, but we're better than what we were. I think the ability to run the ball and effectively, crack 8th, 9th guys in the box. I think our growth in that was kind of demonstrated in OU game a couple of weeks ago. And so to be able to take some of those lessons and apply them here moving forward, I think is going to be needed. I think our ability to make contested one-on-one catches. We talked about, if you remember back then, about if people are putting everybody in the box and they're really threatening you or forcing you to throw the ball, and you have to make those throws. And I think in that game, there was a couple that we did. Once we started to run the ball effectively, we're able to get some throws there in the second half. We're going to have to start the game with that. I anticipate, especially coming off of our last game, just their defense just closing in on our people on that side of the ball. And so I think fair amount of lessons there. I think defensively, being on the same page, communicating, not silent one off when stuff gets competitive or pressured, and playing team defense, doing your 1/11th. Those are things that we can control, that we're going to have to. They're a very good running team.
Bryce Cherry, Waco Trib. Dave, another college job opened up yesterday. Just first of all, what was your reaction to Coach Riley going to USC? And there's already been speculation that Oklahoma, will come after Dave Aranda. How do you handle that when these kind of things come up? And is it hard to, keep the focus when you got people like me asking you about it?
No, well, the first thing I thought of, I came out of a meeting with the offense. We were just watching Saturday's game, and we came back and saw that, and I immediately think of the coaches. And so I just, how many of them knew. I'm sure there's guys that didn't know that just found out in a meeting that was called hastily, And so my heart goes out to them and their families. The world can flip on you quick. And then I think about the players. I think about everything that goes into buying into stuff and believing in stuff. And I think when you're a young person, generally, your identity is tied to your belief, and so it takes a while usually to get a real strong belief in, but you tie your feelings of self-worth and everything to it, and so when that is gone, and that hurts, and so where those kids are at and everything, I feel for that. But yeah, I think there's probably going to be more. There's going to be more like that. I think, I think for me, like I've spoken to the team, I think twice on these things, and I think I feel they know me well enough. They know that the quirkiness and everything that I've got, I think, is a great fit for here, and so I think I'm hopeful that we're past some of that.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider. Dave, they announced the Broyles Award finalists today. Jeff Grimes, offense. Jim Knowles, defense. Can you talk about what Jim Knowles' defense, how much you respect it, and then what Coach Grimes has done here?
Yeah, with Coach Knowles, I think there's an intelligence about him. There is I guess, just real strong football coach about him. I think just this passion, back when I was at LSU, we would talk. I would call him and go, "Hey, man, what you doing?" And he goes, "I'm just watching this tape. Hey, you want to visit, like, tomorrow?" And you go, "Yeah." And so it'd be stuff like that, And he just wants to talk ball and get into it and go through all this stuff. And, those times were fun. You could see, so when you watch their film, there's an intelligence about them. There is an edge about them. So they play with a confidence, and they play with a respect all, fear none, and it screams off the tape, and so it's awfully impressive. I think their linebackers are great. He's a great representation of all of it. I think the way he plays and, calling out plays and the toughness and just everything about him, I think is a kind of a caricature of him and his philosophy in that defense. And so I think the added bonus of, they've been a four-man rush and they've been man coverage, and, that gave us issues a couple, however many games ago that was. But they're, the last 2 years particularly, but the added three-man rush, max, drop 8 has really, and then making that look the same has really given them the benefit of the doubt of taking away just man beaters and everything else that I think they were being hurt on early in his tenure at Oklahoma State. And so I think his ability to kind of grow, to learn and grow in that space under the type of pressure and everything that he's under, I think speaks a lot of him and that program and all of it. And so really impressed. I'm a fan of coaches. I'm a fan of his. And then, when you look at Grimey, I think, Grimey is someone that exudes confidence. I think he has an easiness and a there's and a manner in which you can trust them, you can believe in them. I think our players, at times this year, especially on offense, in the beginning of the year, I think needed that type of bedside manner. I think Grimes specifically, personally, is someone that has really strong confidence with the ability to really have strong empathy for other people. And I think those two things are uncommon in the same person. And I'm a fan of his. He's been a great asset to us.
Dave, John Morris, Baylor Radio. I'm guessing you like the challenge of a rematch with a team you played just a couple of months ago. What's involved in that chess match of playing a team twice?
Yeah, so I think there's, I think every Sunday you've got a brand new team. So you play on Saturday, and so taking, lessons learned, taking, confidence gain, maybe doubt is crept in, maybe belief is strengthened, maybe, questions are answered. And so I think to get to where you're going, you have to start where you are. And I think that is, it's probably harder to do. It might be easy to say. And so to start with what's real and, the things that since that game that we have grown in, since that game, the things that we've regressed in, and then how much of that has been due to that game. I think we've seen that game plan a couple times over since that game. And so there's been, growth through adversity. There's been contested catches made. There's been the ability to run block on the perimeter with skill positions. There's been the ability on defense to get a four-man rush effectively. And so there's been growth, but then there's also been, hey, these people are in the game, they do this. This package is in the game, they do that. So there's also traces being left. And so all of those things, I think, come to mind when you talk a second time through. And so I think, I look at their side of it, and down the stretch they've been a confident team, and they've really had things rolling. I think you watch the tape, and it pops off just the energy and edge that they've got. And so I think for us, it's going to be narrowing a focus, upping the quality of what we're doing, right? Disregarding the stuff that ain't really our stuff, focusing on getting the stuff that's our stuff, getting it better, and having really high standards for it, and then increasing the speed, and then letting it go.
Jack Allen, 25 ABC. Coach, last time Baylor was in the Big 12 championship, Gary threw a touchdown to Tyquan. Treston had a big touchdown. How much do those plays, those experiences help coming back into a situation like this?
I'm sure it does. I think you talk about those guys in particular. They're a confident bunch. There's a great connection to their teammates, and I think there's a great belief in what we're doing and what we represent. And so, I'm anticipating that we're going to have a great day of practice today, and that we will, stack days as we go. I think as a coaching staff, we're going to demand it, just coming off of last week's, roller coaster. And so I think, the surrounding, prelude to all of this, I think, can be good if we approach it the right way, approach it like those guys did a year ago.
Dave, Curtis Quillen, KCEN, Channel 6 here in Waco. Last year, things did not go well for you against Oklahoma State. Substantially better in Oklahoma. And I know John asked about what's changed between October 2nd and now. Going back further, when you made those swift offensive changes after the OSU game a year ago, what's changed for you guys to the point to get to the Big 12 championship game now. And when you walked off the field at McLean Stadium that day last year, did you think that you would be in this game this time out?
No, I think walking off that game, I was just like, man, I wonder how, all of our guys that are sick, I wonder how they're doing, man. I remember being on that sideline during that game, and I think Juice was doing an admirable job of calling plays, and I think there's, I think for maybe 4 or 5 plays, we have gone backward consecutively at every play. And so I remember him trying to call play and just trying to spit it to get it out. And I go, man, it's harder than it looks, man, And so I just, from that phase of it to get guys healthy, right? And then you're talking about making changes. And then you're talking about like Christmas, and you're talking about families, and you're talking about people moving, and extended family planning on moving over, and just all of it, man. It's just like and the floodgates kind of open when you bring it up, And so, I think of the kind of the rebirth of all of it is really trying to see what's real. Treat it being real, and treat it in a way that you have respect for people, and then try to grow, And I think we've been able to do that really since that time. And since the time of our last game versus Oklahoma State, we've grown quite a bit, and we're going to need to continue to. I think, just the mettle that they showed on Saturday's game is impressive. It's a quality team, a connected team. And I think when you have talent plus that connection is dangerous. Now, we got that too. We're going to have to be on it.
Darby Brown with KWTX. What's the status of Gary Bohannon and getting him back this week?
He's practicing today. So today is a non-padded day. And so, but he's going to go through the practice, and so we'll take it day by day and kind of see where he's at. I know he's awfully eager.
Dave, Connor Galvin has been a starter for a long time. He plays a very key position. What kind of leader has he been, and how have you seen him improve? Yeah,
he's grown a lot. Yeah, I think Connor is someone where I think leadership was something that maybe wasn't introduced to, or maybe didn't see the necessity for it. I think he's always had leadership qualities, and he'd always kind of relegate himself to leadership among the offensive line, and I think so much of it was, and I credit Eric Mateos a lot for this, and Grimey as well, is just to broaden those horizons, and it can be so much more than that. And you can, big men are leading this team, and you are the face of that, man, and being the standard. And again, that's the hardest thing about all of it, is that everything you do, man, that you are the standard. And I think his ability to embrace that, and however many coaches now that he's had, and however many different ways that we're doing the same block, right? However many different ways we're calling the same play. For him to kind of not get locked into that, but see people and see their heart and what they're trying to get done, and then kind of bring people with him once he sees it and he's with us. I mean, we owe him a lot.
Drake Toll, Sigma365.com. Dave, in the last Oklahoma State game, Terrell was out, and it seemed like Oklahoma State could run the ball a little more freely than most games this season. With him back this week, how does that change things, not just defensively, but for the team in general?
Yeah, I think Terrell is one of those. Good question. I appreciate it. I think Terrell is one of those guys that when he's just in the huddle and he's in it, there's just an added confidence that comes with it because of his maturity and his resilience and his preparation. You just feel like he's a coach on the field, and there's a fair amount of runs in there to your point, where I think he makes us better if he's in there. And so they're a different team. than it was that particular night, and so are we, you know. And so I think, you go into a game like this, you want Terrell on your side, and I'm excited for him. You know, you look at someone that has poured his heart out for this place, and just, you know, there has been a stalwart on way different ways of getting stuff done, right? And he's been just a role model on how to accept change and how to play through change and all of it. And so I want him to be successful. I'm excited he's playing in this game.
Last question. Mandy Knight, Fox 44. Obviously, Gary is still coming along, but if he is a 100% and can go, how do you make that decision process? Because Blake played really well, 254 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and obviously he's a freshman versus, Gary has all the experience.
Yeah, so we'll see kind of how this week goes with Gary and his ability to be, safe, and move around and use his legs, and not necessarily use his legs for productive reasons, but use his legs to stay clean and not take unneeded hits, And then I'd look at just Blake and just his performance. I think he, there was tight coverage a lot of times. There was there was a substantial rush a lot of times, but there was just a calm coolness back in the pocket where he threw the ball. If it needed to be to the outside, he threw it to the outside. If it needed to be high, he threw it high. If it needed to be away from a defender, he threw it away from a defender, and just put the ball where it needed to be. And there's a couple of big boy throws in there, especially in that second half. And so impressed with him. I think towards the end of the game he got comfortable running it. I think there's still a fair amount of improvement on that side of it. But happy for him, right? And his contribution, I think, if it comes to it, it's Blake, more than enough confidence in him.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.